Welcome to the hardcore world of softcore bodyboarding, where anything's possible, especially if your name's Mike Stewart, Pat Caldwell, like Jack the Ripper Lindholm. Along with yours truly, we'll be venturing into friendly waters. Well, mostly friendly, to bring you some basic pointers on bodyboard technique. Whether you're a raw beginner or a rider who's already logged some water time, the following tips from the world's hottest riders should prove helpful. But like I always say, couldn't hurt. When you first buy your bodyboard, you'll notice that it's very slippery. And when you take it out in the water, you put water on it, it'll be even slipperier. That's because of the silicone used in the process of making the materials that go into your bodyboard. So when you get your bodyboard, purchase a bar of good surf wax and just rub some wax over the area that your body's going to be coming in contact with. Mostly this large area here where you're going to be laying on, a little bit back in the tail so that if you hold your board out in front of you, it won't slide out. Get all this area in here and get on the nose where your hands are going to be holding onto the board, and the handle if you have one. Get it on the nose and then turn your board over and get the front edges of the rails and a little bit of the bottom. Most of the water flow is going to be back in this general area, so it won't really affect your performance getting a little bit of wax on there. Just get it on the nose wherever your hands are going to be touching, and after a few times out, you will realize where your hands are going to be as far as placement on the board. And you just want a little bit of wax so that you won't be sliding off. Otherwise, it'll be like riding a banana. Before you go out in the water, while you're putting on your wetsuit or waxing up your board or whatever, just it's a good idea to check the surf spot where you're going to be surfing. Check the entire area around for any possible hazards such as rips, currents, undertows, shore breaks, rocks, coral heads, other surfers. Before you even leave the beach, check your area around and look at the local surfers, and you can always tell who's hot and who's not, and see how they're getting back to the beach. And so that once you're done surfing, you can get back to the beach safely. Some people do get out there and then want to come in and don't know how to get back in. And if you're surfing in a hazardous area where there's, say it's a rock-lined shore, coming back onto the rocks can be dangerous. Got that? Good. So let's get out there.
Okay, there's basically two types of paddling on the bodyboard. One would be with your arms. You should be placed kind of high up on the board, kind of towards the front of the board. It should be usually a back and forth stroke, like this. The other is with your legs. Usually with the legs, you can hold the board out a little bit more away from you, and just, you know, kick away.
The reason you start kicking with your feet is usually when you first enter the water, you start kicking with your feet when you're going out through shore break. Leaves your hands free to hang onto the board. Once you're out through shore break, it's good to switch to your hands and move up on the board, and you can kick, or you can kick with both, your hands and your feet, just, you know, so you can kind of relax and still get to where you want to go. And then once you get out to the wave, what I do is I hang on with one hand, paddle with one hand, and kick with both feet. So there's a lot of variations you can, you know, use to kind of come up with your own style that works best for you.
Usually when you're going under waves, you can, if it's a small wave, you can go over the wave using the kicking method. Otherwise, you're going to probably end up paddling with your arms into the wave, and before it comes, pushing down the front of the nose and actually submerging the board. After you get the board submerged and you time it so the wave is just about over you, you want to angle the board up so it shoots you outward like that. Kind of demonstrate the paddling right here, or dunking. Just kind of want to move up, push it down, pull it up like that.
Here JP's paddling, getting momentum, pushing on the nose of his board. Here you can see I actually use my knee to get a little bit more leverage and to get the angle up on the board.
Okay, after you position yourself and you do have, or you think you have the peak or the wave, you can, it's usually better to keep the board a little bit further away from you when you're paddling into it. And you want to push down on the nose to actually almost hook into the wave. Once you feel the momentum of the wave kind of taking over, you can slide up on the board and go on to your maneuvers.
Here Pat Caldwell pushes down the nose of his board, just kind of shoves up a bit, gets a little bit more momentum and speed, and goes right into his next maneuver, the bottom turn. You can see Kevin sliding up real quick in his small waves. Here's JP paddling hard. You can see the board's a little bit further away from him, and his hands up there on the nose, push down to get leverage. Once he has the wave, he just kind of stabilizes himself Slides up a bit, and off he goes.
Turn is probably the most critical maneuver for bodyboarding, because it sets you up for any other maneuvers that you're about to perform or you might want to perform. Bottom turns can usually be performed best either halfway down or on the flats. Okay, from a bottom turn, your center of gravity is pretty much in the center of the board. Center of the board to a little bit further back. You lift up on the nose opposite the way you're turning. So if you're going to go left, you're going to lift up on this side. If you're going to go right, you're going to lift up on this side. What that does is, this bevel right here, it makes the bevel a little bit more flatter towards the wave, and it creates more of a suction right here. The water trying to make this corner, and it actually draws you up towards up the face of the wave. And if you can have a really high-speed bottom turn, that's probably the formula for most spectacular maneuvers.
Here, because of the wave condition, a little walled up, I put a lot of pressure on it, on the rail right here, lifting up, going straight into the maneuver. It's just a real simple thing. Bottom turn, right into the air. Here you can see Jack putting a lot of pressure on the rail and climbing straight up the face, right into the maneuver. A good bottom turn can take you anywhere you want to go.
For trimming or making the section, going down the line, you want to move almost as far up on the board as you can. And what this will do is it will center your gravity along the largest planing surface, which will probably be about anywhere from 3/4 to almost the whole thing, the whole board will be in the water planing. And this is where you can obtain your most speed. So you kind of want to actually right off your elbows and even lift up your feet.
Trimming is more than just going straight across the face. You use it to slow down and speed up for maneuvers. And in this situation, I use it to cut out. In this situation, there's a tube, so I alter the speed of my trim to stay just as deep as I want it. Here, JP changes his trim speed by dragging his feet in the water to get just as deep as he wants to. Then he moves up a bit on his board. Pat Caldwell uses his arms almost as shock absorbers to keep his inertia in one direction and gain a lot of speed in a situation that might not otherwise allow it.
Okay, there's a lot of variations for cutbacks. There's a snappy cutback, there's more of a carving cutback. You want to usually go into a cutback with all the speed you can, and this usually occurs in a peak into a flatter region, or more of a small wall or a bowl. And what you do is you usually have a high angle of trimming. After you get into the trimming, you want to gradually lift up the nose, just as you were to cut back, lift up the nose opposite the way you're turning. Or cut back, you're lifting up the nose opposite the way you're turning into the cut back. And what you do is you just gradually lift it up, and as you lose speed, you pull up harder on it. And the whole time, you're really using a lot of force with your arms, kind of just really lifting it up and gradually turning it in. If you try to turn it too fast, what will happen is the board will either slide out, or sometimes it will grab and you'll just lose all your speed and all your inertia. What you want to do is kind of draw it out, and you can experiment with this, doing them, slow and then real fast, or kind of gradual the whole way. There's a lot of variations you can do for your cutbacks.
Cutbacks can serve as functional maneuvers in that they put you back into the power of the wave. In small waves especially, it's important to stay where the power is, so you can generate speed and go into the next maneuver. Your cutbacks can vary from short, snappy cuts to more large, carving type of turns. It's important to first visualize where you're going to do the cutback, and then look where you're actually doing the cutback.
Pumping, or what surfers do sometimes, you'll see them as well, kind of hop the board. Bodyboarders do it as well. You can't get the same leverage because you're not standing up, but you'll see riders like Pat Caldwell, Kevin Okamura, myself do it in small waves especially. And what this does is, you'll be planing on the board surface. And what happens is, when it's going slow, the water tends to suck up on this rail. What this is an added resistance. When you pump it, it breaks the water right at this point here. You pump it, the water displaces at this point, and it misses the rail completely. And what this does is cuts down on friction and ultimately makes you go faster, especially in smaller waves. Try to keep the board flat at the same time you're doing it. When you rocker the board, or you put an arc in it, it kind of plows through the water as opposed to planing through it. So you want to keep the board flat. And when you do this, it doesn't have to be too drastic. You can do it quite subtle. You're just riding, and you just might want to just kind of hop on it like in this motion. Just kind of, you'll feel it. It's kind of a thing where you feel it. You feel on your body. You feel it in the amount of speed you get after you do it. So it's something you have to practice with, and just go out there and feel how it is.
To do an off-the-lip, first thing you need is a good steep wave. You look for a nice steep section. You come down from the top, do a nice bottom turn. Try to set up to get up as vertical going up the face of the wave as possible. Once you're up there, you want to just do like a snap cutback. So you throw a lot of spray, and you're using every inch of your speed, and you're getting as much G-forces as possible. So you come down, you bottom turn, you go straight up the face of the wave and just kind of crank it. And then usually followed by a cutback towards the white water, and then going back on the face of the wave. Or an aerial, or just an off the lip. Or you can do it as the wave is kind of folding over like this. You come down, you hit the lip as it's vertical. So once you get to the lip, once you're at the exact lip, it's beyond vertical. So as you're coming back over, it's actually braking, and you can ride the lip back down. It's similar to a floater. In fact, it actually is a floater. So there's a lot of different variations of the off the lip you can do. The off the lip is a pretty basic maneuver. To do it, you just need a lot of speed and a good vertical direction going up the face of the wave.
In small waves, you really need to generate your own speed, do snappy little turns off the top. Here you do a quick bottom turn and hit the lip. Here's a good example. A little bottom turn, keeping speed off the top, and keep on going. Here we have a guy who's going to lift up his whole board to get off the lip. Mike Stewart coming out of tube, bottom turn, keeping speed off the top into a floater. Here I come down, bottom turn, keeping speed, and right off the lip.
Okay, what I'm going to show you now is about the easiest way to do a belly spinner. What you do is you get moving on a wave at a pretty good speed. The easiest place to do it on the wave is out in front of it or out on the wall. What you do is you scoot up on your board, you lift your feet up, put a hand in the water, and actually spin your rear end of your board out where your feet are at in a 360 kind of a motion, looking ahead to where you're going and actually coming around in a complete 360 motion.
There's a lot of variations to the belly spinner. You can do it on the flat shoulder of the wave. You can do it way up high as the wave's coming over. You can bottom turn, and the same way you would for an El Rolo or an off the lip. And as you get up there, grab a chunk of the lip and spin yourself around real quick and come back down. That's a good way to do it. You gain a lot of speed for you to continue on the wave. Belly spinner off the whitewater. It's like doing a floater. Say the wave is crumbling. You come up, you don't wait till it's crumbling all the way down. Just when it starts crumbling at the top. You come up and you kind of hop up on the whitewater and you spin around like this, and same way. You release your inside rail, kick up your feet, and as you're coming back down, you bring your feet back down to regain control, and as the wave is breaking, you'll come down on it and you just keep going. The spinning action helps you to maintain momentum, and as you bring your feet back down, you'll notice that you can kind of whip yourself back into the direction you're going and continue your flow of speed. So it's a very functional move, and in contests it gets points, and it's fun to do too.
In smaller waves, you use it to kind of keep yourself going. As you come around, look to where you're going, snap your head around and watch where you're going. That'll help bring you around. Here Caven is doing a no-hand spin. Just bottom turning, releasing his rail. Mike Stewart here uses the momentum of the spin to bring him around a whitewater section. As he comes around, he's looking where he's going, uses the spinner to put him back on the face of the wave. Here we have Caven doing a cutback spin. He'll cut back into a spinner and keeps on going. Here I come down, bottom turn, keeping my speed going. Up to the top, grab a piece of the wave and spin. You get pushed out the back.
imagine this wall as a wave, and it's ready to close out. And what you want to do is you want to get out of this wave as quick as possible, and possibly without getting sucked over. What you do is you get a lot of speed, big head of speed, you come down the face of the wave, and you come down to the bottom, and you just jam it right into the bottom of the wave, and actually keeping your head and shoulders in front of your board, because it's heavier than the board, and you're going to be able to get a lot of momentum that way, actually jamming it and punching through the wave.
Here Mike Stewart dives through the wave, pulling the board behind it. Here he goes into a cutback, same thing. Here we have him avoiding a surfer. Same thing, doing a sharp turn, pulling his board through with his body. Pat Caldwell, seeing a closeout section, diving under, pulling his board.
Okay, you got that? Takeoffs, bottom turns, cutbacks, kickouts. You just have to think about it as you do it until it becomes instinct. Then you can add your own style and flair. On behalf of Mike Stewart, Pat Caldwell, Jack Lindholm, and myself, it was nice to have you along for part 1 of How to Bodyboard. Now, if you're ready to try a little more high-performance style of riding, including tube riding, stand-ups, drop knee El Rolos, and aerials, watch for How to Bodyboard Part 2. See you in the surf. Putting a little bit of wax on the nose won't affect the performance of it. Whoops. Once upon a time, the bodyboard was thought of as just a child's toy, but no more. If you're a hardcore rider, you're well aware that the bodyboard can be a mind machine, taking you to new places, on, within, and above the wave. To help you reach those amazing places is a crew of amazing riders. Mike Stewart, Pat Caldwell, Jack Lindholm, and, well, yours truly, J.P. Patterson. Together we'll dissect and explain some of the most common intermediate and advanced maneuvers in modern bodyboard. So grab your board, we're going bodyboarding.
Okay, what you want to do in taking a steep drop in any type of wave is that you drive, you kick as hard as you can, keeping your feet in the water, not flapping your fins too hard. Just trying to drive, keeping your little strokes, fast strokes, driving down the face, pushing down on the nose with your hands, and not too much, otherwise you might pearl or something like that. Come down to the bottom. Your first maneuver is going to be your bottom turn. Lean over on your side, let's say if I'm going left. Put a little pressure on your left leg. Apply a little pressure, set the rail, give a little lean, and project into your turn.
When you take off on big waves, you just got to go for it. You can't hold back at all. You have to get in early, stroke, get over the lip, start taking that drop, looking ahead so that you can see anything that's coming up. You can read it and prepare for it. When you're taking the drop is the ideal time to set up for your next move because you've got the whole wave laid out in front of you. Same thing, reading the wave, watching what's coming up. Pat Caldwell doing a little side slip on the drop, reading the wave in front of him. Setting up for his maneuvers. Here we have Mike Stewart kicking hard, not hesitating at all, dropping in, pulling in.
Okay, to perform a good rollo, you should have a lot of speed from your bottom turn, and usually perform it in a hollow section. Right where the wave is just about ready to pitch over past vertical is the section I look for. What I do is I bottom turn off the bottom of the face, turn up the face, look to exactly where lip is going to hit, aim for that area and hit it, and push from the wave itself will actually catapult you outward like that. And it's a really natural move because it's with the flow of the energies.
Depending on the type of roll that you want to do, you can alter the angle at which you approach the lip. A more vertical approach will probably pitch you out a little bit further. A less vertical approach and more down the line will set you up for more of in the tube kind of a rollo. Here Pat Caldwell goes down the line a bit and utilizes it to land back on the face. In larger surf, you're going to have more speed and you'll be able to do, the maneuver will come a little bit more natural. In smaller waves, you're going to have to twist a little bit more.
Okay, there's a lot of different variations to the rollo. One would be the rollo takeoff. Another one would be a little bit deeper in the tube, which is actually riding the wave in the tube and falling back into the bottom of the wave. You use a little bit less up the face momentum and a little bit more turning in the barrel or the tube. So you want to go up maybe halfway and kind of relax. You don't want to just hit it really hard. You kind of want to relax and ride the face of it and ride it down. You want to kind of release right into this area and land. And usually land from close to the bottom of the wave in the tube. Another one is the rollo takeoff, which can be done paddling out towards the oncoming wave, breaking. And if you hit the maneuver in the same location as you would a regular rollo, right where the lip is starting to pitch, and what you want to do is paddle up the face and kind of put the board out more and let it take you over, as opposed to being on it with a lot of speed.
Even rollo takeoffs have many variations. In this situation, Jack almost falls sideways in the tube and still pulls it off, somehow generating a lot of speed from nowhere.
To do a cutback 360 or a cutback belly spin, as it sometimes is called, you want to go into the initial cutback as you would just a regular cutback, which is kind of riding on the tail, this corner of the board, and holding it up in the direction you're going. And you cut back as you would a regular one, and when you get back in the direction facing towards the oncoming wave, you want to slide up on the board. And what will happen is the force from your initial turn will have a tendency to swing out the back or your fins, your legs, out in the direction what you want to spin. It's a very natural maneuver. You cut back, move up on the board, and you swing out. And you end up going back the way you were initially going when you got the wave.
It's helpful when learning to do a cutback 360 to go into the cutback and maybe put your hand in the water. Raise your feet and spin around. Engage your feet and you're off. After you get a little bit more proficient with these cutback 360s, you can try initiating the spin without using your hands.
To do the drop knee stance, I'd recommend a longer than average board, just by a couple inches. It makes a big difference for stability. And also for fins, I'd recommend one of the smaller fins. Make it easier to put your leg up. To catch a wave, drop knee stance. You paddle for the wave, and positioning and timing is all important. And you make sure you have the wave before you get up on the stance. And then you get up in one fluid motion, put your knee up with one knee down. Like I'm goofy foot, so it would be my right leg up. If you're a natural foot or regular foot, it'd be your left leg up. And then from there, you just project yourself, and there's nothing touching the water. It's a feeling of total freedom. And so you just project down the line, down the wall of the wave, and you go into your bottom turn or whatever trick you feel like doing. To ride in a drop knee stance, I feel is functional because you can use your arms. Your arms are free to help you in doing turns and balancing, and your legs you can use for pumping the board, and there's nothing dragging. So you can build up a lot of speed drop knee stance. And if you want to do a drop knee El Rolo, you have to choose the right wave. Like, you have to really concentrate, and you kind of go into it late when the wave is just about to pitch. You project yourself up the lip, up the wave, into the air, and try to get as high as you can, almost even out of the wave, and grab both rails with your hands. And in mid-air, you switch to the prone position and bring it down. You flip over and land in the prone position. That's the trick to doing the drop knee El Rolo as it is now. But I think the next frontier would be if you could land drop knee without going to your stomach.
Being 6'3", it's kind of hard for me to stand up. It took me about 4 or 5 months to learn how to stand up, but this is kind of how I learned how. What I do is I stagger my arms like this, allowing, since I'm goofy foot, I'll be putting my back foot up first. I'll stagger my arms like this, and what I'll do is I'll lift up into a push-up and actually put my back foot and swing my front foot up. So I'm staggered on the board like this, and because there's no fins on the bottom, you have to counterbalance your feet from one side to the other. Same with drop kneeing. You have a knee on the inside of your rail, and your front foot is on your outside rail in order to compensate for your weight on the inside in this kind of a motion. is usually done with a lot of speed. You have to have a lot of speed to go into one of these maneuvers. You bottom turn as you would to do a rollout or any other maneuver off the lip, but instead of arcing or turning off the top, you actually project out further, imagining the lip maybe another 2 or 3 feet off the wave. There's 2 directions you usually go in air, and that's either up and down or outward. You usually get most air hitting the lip and going outward.
When approaching the lip to do an aerial, imagine the lip being a few feet further than it actually is. This will kind of project you out further. Keep your eye on the spot you decide to land on, and your board will naturally follow that arc. Extend your board away from you as you come in for the landing, and it will reduce the impact. And you can retain your speed and go on to the next maneuver.
By watching the lip of the breaking wave in the hollow section, you can determine how fast you need to go through the tube. If it's a short wall or one that seems to be coming down or arcing or bowling a little bit closer to you, you don't need as much speed to make it through it. If it's a long wall that has a long shearing lip, you're going to need a lot more speed to go through it. And there's basically 2 positions to get into them. One would be where you stall into it if it's hollow, kind of lifting up the board or going out and then turning into it. Or the long-walled one where you're just going to be riding in your speed position or trimming.
Your trim speed is probably the most important factor in tube riding. Depending on how long the tube is or how short it is, you can alter your trim speed for the specific situation. In really deep tubes, it's especially important to keep your eye at the end of the tunnel and just kind of have a desire to make it out of it. Otherwise, you just lose hope and faith back there and it probably won't come out. In small waves, you're going to have to squeeze tight, contorting your body into a smaller position. Here you see J.P. Patterson kind of making his body into an angle to fit the angle of the tube. And here again, I lean really tight on this bowling barrel. Here you can see JP kind of stalling to stay deep in the tube by lifting up on the nose of his board, controlling his speed just to get as deep as he wants to. Here Jack Lindholm uses his drop knee style and drags his hand in the water, lifts the nose of his board up a bit, and leans back to stall for the tube. From experience, I can tell what this wave is going to do. I stall a little bit to get deep, and then I move right into the speed position to come out with a spit.
Style in bodyboarding for me is going with the flow of things. Maneuvers that are flashy should be done on waves or situations that are kind of flashy in themselves. Hollow waves, you're harnessing the energy and redirecting it. In small waves, you're kind of generating the speed. Style in general is something that you have to pick up yourself, and it happens after you refine the maneuvers, the basic maneuvers, and get that foundation built up. As soon as you have that foundation, you start getting into the more refined aspects of bodyboarding, and that's when style comes in.
Every ride can be broken down into its fundamental parts, but it's the style that really ties it together.
Ideally, maneuvers will flow one into the other.
On this wave in particular, it was a little bit more of a peak, so I decided to stall and wait until the wave would catch up with me. I'm bottom turning here, halfway down the face, and kind of lifting up the front of my board to slow down. Waiting for the wave to kind of catch me up and encase me. This wave really spit hard, which means a mist in air got blown out from the pressure in there. Hi, Mom. It looked like a good wave for another maneuver, and this one I went for a through the lip rolo, which just turned out to be a pretty good decision. Landing with the exploding whitewater kind of breaks the impact, or kind of reduces the impact on your board. It's kind of like a real soft landing when you land on the whitewater. This wave looked to me like it wasn't going to pitch out and not tube, so I kind of went out a little bit further, extending my bottom turn into the flats a little bit more, and going around the section and hoping that the inside would reform into a hollower section. I turned up high into the face of this wave to gain a little bit speed. Almost overcompensated there, which I had to drop almost vertical back down into the wave. But it did reform into a nice little hollow section on the inside. So I went into a high-speed positioning again, kind of trying to make the section. And at this point, it looks like it's going to close out, so I kind of turn out towards the beach to avoid the closing out lip, turning back into it. I see it's a good section to go for a belly spinner off the top. So I shift my weight up to the forward of the board and just kind of let the momentum take me around. And dig my feet back in, and it looks like it's going to close out, so I decide to duck out of here, kind of just actually diving into it. Okay, and it's very important in small waves to generate as much speed as possible. In this wave, I particularly try to go for a rolo, bottom turning, looking for where I'm going to hit the lip, and just kind of arcing up towards the lip, letting the force of the bottom turn draw you up the face, and the force of the lip to kind of pitch you out and continue the rotation. I twist a little there and let the lip push me outwards. Landing on the whitewater, where it actually explodes, cushions your landing. It's always important, I feel, to look for the next maneuver possible. Here you'll see I'm kind of bottom turning, trying to get some speed and go around this next section, looking for a more hollow section, or at least a section where I could perform something. Right here I'm trying to generate some speed, moving up on the board and actually pumping the board, trying to cut down resistance and go into a cutback and immediately into a belly spinner. The key is attaining enough speed. And the wave finally peters out, so I decide to cut out of the wave.
I think in the future we're going to see a lot more better things coming out of it, a lot more professional contests, better equipment, better, different equipment.
Yeah, the whole caliber of riding is really getting
expanding.
Yeah. There's a lot of hot kids out there. Look at you guys.
I know.
hard, very hard to compare getting a gigantic cavernous barrel at pipeline to anything on the planet.
What do we have here? This is the Shopping Hut Unreal Video Library. Let's see. Surfing. Skateboarding. Bodyboarding. Snowboarding. GPV. BMX racing. BMX freestyle. Oh no! Video